This lesson is going to be all about population structure and population pyramids in the United Kingdom. By the end of this lesson, you will know what a population pyramid is, and you will know what problems are associated with the UK population pyramid. So to start off with, I'd like you to look at the two pictures on the board and see if you can work out what you think a population pyramid might be. Okay, so a population pyramid is, as you might have figured out already, it's a triangular shaped pyramid, and it's full of all the people that live in a country or an area. Let's have a look at an example. The example we're going to look at, we're going to start off by looking at an example of a population pyramid for Kenya. So this is a population pyramid for Kenya. It's a type of graph. It's a bar graph that goes out horizontally. So this is for Kenya in 2015. So what you've got for starters is along the bottom you've got the percentage of the total population. So 0%, 2%, 4%, 6% and so on. So if you add everyone up on this graph, it should add up to 100% of the population. Then on this side you've got all the males, and on this side you've got all the females. And then over here on this axis you've got the ages of the different bars, or the ages of the different groups. So for example, if you wanted to know how many young children there were, young male children, then what we'd do is we'd say, okay, let's have a look. So here's the 0 to 4-year-olds. Male is this blue side here. So what we can do is we'll read our bar graph and we can go along and we can see they've actually written it on there quite handily. It's 7.8%. So there are 7.8% of the population are 0 to 4 in Kenya. Now, a few interesting features of this graph. First of all, remember that Kenya is a poorer country, a low-income country, an LIC. So it may not look the same, the pyramid for the United Kingdom. We wouldn't necessarily expect it to. So can you see the pyramid gets smaller at the top? Why do you think the pyramid for Kenya gets really, really small and narrow at the top? Well, the reason for that is because people are dying. So as we move into our elderly population, and I'm going to call elderly people over 60 for the purpose of this lesson. So if we go for elderly people over here, you can see that this is really narrow and it's getting smaller and smaller as people reach 95 to 100 years old because they die. So that would be normal. You'd expect the pyramid to get smaller at the top. Then this middle category of people here are the people who are working. So over time it's also getting narrower, okay? Presumably because some of these people are dying as they get older and older as well. But you've got another feature of it, that at the bottom of the pyramid, so the children, is really wide. So what that means is lots and lots of children are still being born, lots of babies are being born in Kenya in 2015. So this may tell you various things about the country, but essentially you've got lots of babies being born, you've got quite a lot of economically active people, and then you've got a much smaller elderly population. Right, let's compare this to the population pyramid for the UK in 2018. So this is the population pyramid for 2018. I've put some pictures on it just to give you an idea of what's going on, but you don't need to use them at the moment really. Now this pyramid is slightly different in that it's got the population in millions along the bottom, but it doesn't really make any difference because it's the shape of the pyramid that we're looking at. So there are a few differences here. For example, if we looked here at the number of elderly people, so we're looking at the 60 plus category, can you see it's much wider? There are a lot more elderly people. It's still getting narrower at the top of the pyramid. Why do you think that is? Okay, so it's the same reason as before. As people get older, they begin to die. However, just in general, if we compare the two again, if I go back, look how narrow the pyramid is at the top here from the 60 pluses, whereas in the UK, look how much wider it is. So what we know is that people are living for longer in the UK, and this is a good thing. It means healthcare is much better, and I've put some pictures up here. You know, you've got people much more fit and healthy as they're older, their diet is better, so they're living for longer, and that's why it's really wide at the top of the pyramid. It's also fairly wide here, which indicates that about 20 or 30 years ago, the birth rate was quite high, was higher than it is now, and you don't have many of these people dying. So the people who are economically active between 20 and 60, not many of them are dying, and their birth rate used to be higher than it is now if you go back 30 or 40 years. So this is quite a wide section, and these people are all working. These are our workers, these are economically active, and I've put in a picture of a pilot and somebody working in a shop. All those people are working. Then you've got our dependents or our younger population. So this is our sort of under 20s, under 18s down here. And you should be able to see that unlike the Kenya pyramid, it's going in at the bottom here. It's actually, there's a smaller number of children. And that's because the birth rate is decreasing in the UK. The fertility rate is 1.75. That means fewer children are being born. That's why the pyramid gets smaller at the bottom. Now, this population pyramid poses some problems for the UK. Some of the problems are happening now and some of them will happen in the future. So if you imagine over time, the people that are here, you, the children, will move to here. The people who are like myself will move up here. And the people that are here will move up. So if you try and imagine this pyramid moving up over time, okay? So when I'm retired, you will be the people who are economically active, okay? So let's have a look at some of the problems this will cause. Now you might have already started to work out some of these problems. So the main problem here is that people are living for longer. Now this isn't a bad thing that people are living for longer, it's a really good thing. It says lots of good things about our country. However, it does lead to lots of problems. The problems it leads to is you get a big pressure on healthcare. So when people get older, they do often need to go to hospital, they need to see the doctor more regularly, and that costs the taxpayer money. So that costs lots of money for society. In addition, they need pensions for longer. So in the olden days, you might only be claiming a pension from the age of 60 to 80. Now you need a pension from 60 to 100. Who pays the pension fund? Well, you pay it, or the economically active pay it. They pay it for the generation above them. So it is coming from taxation, from something called national insurance, which is a type of tax that the economically active people pay. But if people need pensions for longer, we need more money for those elderly people. You also need residential care, homes for elderly people that can't look after themselves, and social care as well. So all these things need paying for, and there isn't enough money from the economically active people to pay for all of this. So what we have to do is we have to think of solutions to this. So I've put some pictures on the board. I've put a couple of pictures. See if you can think of anything that we can do to try and solve some of these problems. Right, so one thing we could do, you've probably worked this one out, is we could raise taxes. We could ask the people who are between 20 and 60 to pay more money. Now the basic tax rate in the UK is about 20% on our incomes. So about 20% of all the money you earn goes to pay for social care, police force, education, all those different services that everybody uses. You could raise that. For example, in Sweden, the majority of taxpayers, apart from the very low earners, pay 50% in taxation. And that means that they've got plenty of money to invest in social care, in healthcare and in education. And the school system in Sweden is exceptional, with much smaller classes as well. So yes, it means that the person who's working, the economically active, might not have as much money in their pockets, but it means that the services that are there for everybody to use are improved and much better. Another option would be that you ask, or you get people who are older to work for longer. So instead of saying, well, you can retire at 60, we say, no, now you'll need to work till you're 70, because we need more money in taxation. So therefore the retirement age changes, so we've got more people in the economically active group. Another option here is to encourage migration. Most migrants that move to the UK are economic migrants. They move here for jobs, to work, and therefore you increase the people in this section of the pyramid with migrants. So you've got more people to pay taxes to look after the elderly people and to invest in our services. So these are some of the options that we could do. So the activity you're going to do, you've got a couple of things to do. First of all, you're going to complete the population pyramid that you can see here. I'll give you a worksheet with it on, with the following data. So to show that you can understand how to draw a population pyramid, I'd like you to add this data onto the pyramid, and you'll be able to see where the missing bits are which you need to add on. The second thing I'd like you to do is I'd like you to fill in these two gaps. So you're reading the pyramid and finding out the number of males aged 0 to 4 in 2018 and the number of females 60 to 64 in 2018 was. So you're completing those two gaps there. When you've done that, I would like you to answer these questions in full sentences. So for example, why does the pyramid get smaller at the top for the UK pyramid? If we compare the population pyramid to the UK in 1900, what do you think has changed to the older population? What do you think's happened to the population of the under 20s over time in the UK? Why are the people between the ages of 20 to 60 years old really important? If the population continues to live for longer and less children are born, what issues will this raise in the long term? So what's going to happen in the future in this pyramid? So when we move forward, and if I go back to the pyramid and you move to this area, well, look at how big this population here is. They're all going to be up here and maybe even living for longer than previously. And then who's going to pay for all that? Because the numbers being born is even smaller. So we really do need a long-term solution to this, and you can have a think of your own solution. And number 6, how might some of these issues be tackled? Okay, so after we've done that, I'd just like to have a think about some of these questions, okay, as if we were to be able to debate them. So how do you think the issue of the ageing population should be solved? What's your personal opinion on that? What's your plan? Is your plan sustainable? Will it last into the long term? Will people support your plan? Which stakeholders will agree with your plans? So stakeholders are people who live in the UK, different people. So you might have the elderly population. Will they like your plan? Okay. Will the economically active like your plan? Will you, the children, like your plan? For example, do you want to work until you're 70 years old, or maybe even 80 by the time you get to that point? What's your opinion? What are the stakeholders' opinions? Who do you think would disagree with what your plan would be? And will there be negative long-term impacts or any issues that you could foresee arising with the plans that you come up with?